Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books from the shelf, blow the dust off them, and remind ourselves why we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today is Tony Pasculi.
Happy to be here.
And today we're going with one of my favorites, Michael Crichton's Eaters of the Dead.
That is such an interesting pick because this might be the least popular Michael Crichton novel ever written, and maybe even the least known Michael Crichton. It's the basis for a really popular film, The 13th Warrior. Mm-hmm. But I was just talking to some folks the other day who love The 13th Warrior who have never heard of this book.
I actually remember seeing, back in university days, you remember Sadie, yeah?
Sadie, I remember Sadie, yeah.
Well, anyway, we had all gone as a group to see the movie, and then after, as we were walking out, she's like, I really wish they would have told us more about those Eaters of the Dead. So, yeah, I know something you don't know.
Yeah. All right. So of all the Michael Crichton novels, and I've picked a Crichton novel also, which is relatively obscure. Neither one of us has picked Jurassic Park, for instance.
Did we do Andromeda Strain? I think
we did Andromeda Strain. Yes. So why Eaters of the Dead?
Okay. So I don't honestly remember if I found the book because of the movie or if I found the movie because of the book, but I discovered them at the same time. One of them led me directly to the other.
Interesting.
Likely it was the movie leading me to the book, but again, whichever way, I don't guess it really matters. I love the concept of this book. I love the fact that Crichton took it as a dare to prove that one of the most boring epic poems in English history wasn't boring, and later undertook to write it as a historical, as an academic historical piece.
Yeah. Now that's fascinating because he said, okay, here's this epic poem, Beowulf, and it's got all these incredibly exciting elements in it, but it's presented in this dry verse form. And if only someone would spice it up, it would be an amazing story. So that's his dare that he takes. And then he chooses not to do that, not to spice it up, but in fact to present it, as you say, as a dry, boring historical document. To me, it still works, but it was an interesting choice if that was your dare.
Yeah, and whether or not he succeeded at the dare, it's so not Crichton. And yes. I think that's the thing I like about this. I mean, Crichton's thrillers are fantastic, and I enjoy, I don't think I've ever picked up a Crichton book I didn't enjoy, but I don't think I've ever picked up a Crichton book, or very few Crichton books more than once. And this is one that I have picked up several times.
It's interesting you say that because I think it's very Crichton, because it's in the aspects of Crichton that I enjoy. Okay. Because he is obsessive with technical details.
Yes, he is.
And obsessive with research. Every one of his books includes a bibliography. I don't know if you're aware of that. He does.
I hadn't consciously paired those, but yes, I know that I have paged through his bibliographies.
So, in fact, there's a pretty direct analogy to this book that he also wrote, which, if you like this, you might enjoy, which is The Great Train Robbery, which is based on an actual robbery of a moving train, which has actually happened, and he wrote it as a novel, and it's got all the hallmarks of a Crichton techno thriller, but it's set in the 1800s. Yeah. So he goes into obsessive detail about how the thieves duplicate these keys and how they plan to do this and that. And it's wonderful, and it's stuffed with intricate detail. And it's got a, really compelling driving narrative. And it's a thriller that's set 200 years ago, and it just absolutely works. So
that does sound kind of fun.
As this does, I think.
You're right in that it is Crichton-esque in its depth and its detail.
Yes.
And the depths he went to make it appear to be authentic are kind of hard to wrap your head around. But I mean, it's not techno, it's not thriller.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by not Crichton, but yeah, it's kind of Crichton. I don't know.
Yeah, so it depends on, if you've only read one other Crichton novel, you'd come to this one, you might be shocked and disappointed. Yeah. If you've read all of Crichton, you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is just different subject matter. That's all it is. Yeah.
Now, I thought it was funny. So reading, and I think I have this reaction every time I read it. I start getting into it and I'm all excited. And the first 3 chapters really are kind of a slog. And I'm like, why in the world do I think I love this book so much? And then, the reminder that the funny thing about this is the first 3 chapters are actually historical document.
Yes.
He's got the character in here is a real historical character who actually set out on a journey and actually have some portion of his documentation of that journey. So the first 3 chapters, which I'm complaining about in my head, is like, oh man, this is hard reading. I hope it gets better. Are the 3 chapters he didn't write.
Yes, yeah. I think he made some tweaks to them, but I think he's interpolated much of the actual existing text. Yeah, and then just use that as a springboard to go from there for the rest of the exciting part
afterwards,
of the
he does take the time to differentiate, because this whole book, and this is one of the things I think stands out about it. This thing is replete with footnotes, which the Kindle makes fantastic, by the way. If you're reading it on Kindle, that's one of the things it does really well. But all the way through this thing, there are footnotes, and there are footnotes about the accuracy of the translation. There are footnotes about the different interpretations from different scholars of different periods, and it's all bogus.
Yep.
And during his afterword, he takes the time to explicitly, specifically say, the stuff in the first 3 chapters is real. Everything afterward is not real. These footnotes are real. These footnotes I made up.
So I mentioned the bibliography earlier. He does include actually includes 2 bibliographies. And the first one is a fake bibliography of the research for the fake document. And then he includes a real bibliography. Did you read the fake bibliography, by the way?
Yes, of course.
Did you catch the reference to the Necronomicon as one of the cited works?
No.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to reread. I'm going to have to go through the bibliography again. Fantastic.
Yes. And every other book in the fake bibliography is just called The Vikings by a different author. Yeah. It's like 6 books called The Vikings and then the Necronomicon.
Yeah, I totally missed that.
Yeah. All right. So the first 3 chapters, a little bit of a slog for you. I didn't find that. I love Crichton so much, and I do enjoy this book quite a bit. But then after that, so why is this? What do you love about this book?
On a meta level, I just love the entire premise of it.
Yes.
I'm going to sit down and write a novel explaining Beowulf. And just like Scientology, it started out as a dare. Now, maybe, again, the dare didn't come to fruition. But I love the fact that it's that conceit, that framework, is held to all the way through. And he has found a way to make a very compelling narrative out of a historical document, effectively, out of an academic paper, complete with and replete with footnotes.
Yeah. I find it a lot of fun. I read this fast. I just ripped through it.
Yeah.
But then I enjoy Crichton for his Crichtony mannerisms, as much as for his storytelling. Sometimes more. His really story-oriented books like Sphere and Congo. I'm just like, just get back to the technical details. This story is nonsense. Yeah. But this is great. There's a whole section in the back towards the end where they're talking about all the diagnostic methods they use for injured warriors to tell if they're going to survive through the night. Like they feed them onion soup, and if they can smell onions near their stomach, it's like, oh, he has the onion sickness and he's going to die.
Right.
He's got perforated bowels, basically. Yeah. So they have all these legitimate diagnostic methods, which they have stumbled on through trial and error, which Crichton would know about as someone who went through medical school. And he just throws them all in there. It's amazing. I love that. I love that kind of detail.
Yeah. And it's a good story. I mean, even without the meta, this would be compelling reading.
Yeah.
And it just does a really nice job. You join this world as an outsider.
Yes.
Which is what Eben does, right? Yeah. And you slowly become immersed in it. You slowly become part of it the same way he does. Crichton does a really nice job of taking us along this journey with this reluctant hero. And, as I get into the middle of it, my mind bifurcates because, I've seen the movie more often than I've read the books, and I'm spotting the differences and the similarities, and, a bit of processing goes on there. But it's just a rip-roaring good time. I mean, it's got Vikings, it's got Neanderthals, it's got epic voyages, it's got quests, it's got mist monsters. I mean, what more could you possibly want from an adventure novel?
Yeah, it's great. I think the choice to have the narrator be an outsider is inspired. It's a fairly typical choice, but it's still it's great because the Viking culture is so odd, and I think it might be hard to relate to these guys, but to have someone stand outside and say, they do this, which I thought was odd, and they don't do this, which I thought was odd, is fun introduction. But then also you get to see our narrator's gradual sort of acceptance of this and adoption of it, even to the point where at the end he challenges someone to a Viking duel. And, he's quickly kicked aside by one of his, other warrior friends who realizes he'll lose. Mm-hmm. But he's ready to do it. Yeah.
Well, and he participates in the funeral ceremony, being one of the two men holding the cord to strangle the slave girl.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Which was something that when he saw the ceremony, I'm assuming it's in the 4th chapter of the book, he was completely and utterly appalled by.
Yes.
And then he's there being, Garrote guy number 2.
This is something that Heinlein does a lot, where, someone encounters a foreign culture, they're appalled by it as needlessly barbaric. And then once they are immersed in it and they recognize, that this makes sense for this culture, and then they, switch. Yeah. And that's exactly what he does here. Yeah. Once he's spent enough time with the Vikings, like, I get this. Yeah. So don't know that I would make that same choice in that same situation.
Well, you have to walk a mile in his shoes, right? You have
then,
to have made that trek. You have to. He hadn't heard of Wales. Okay, that was a bit. But Crichton himself mocks that point.
Yes.
Yeah. That was just so funny. Sea monsters, and he sees sea monsters, and they're all freaking out. And then there's the footnote from Crichton's, fake other works, and it seems unlikely that a scholar from the Middle East would never have heard of Wales.
Yeah. I don't know. It's plausible, unless he spent. I don't know how many whales there are. There must be whales in the Mediterranean, right?
One would think.
But are there big ones? Are there like sperm whales or blue whales or anything like that, or just?
I think even if you saw something little like a beluga whale and then encountered a much larger version, you would still think, "Holy fudge, that's a really large version of a whale."
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's entirely possible.
Of course, if you're in a longboat,
it's a very different experience.
It's not quite the same as, being on top of the yacht and going, "Oh, look, the whales are breaching."
Speaking of, we're going to have to do Moby Dick one of these days. That's a remarkable book.
It's on the list of things I will choose eventually.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I will leave you to it then. Yeah. Let me know. Let me know when it comes up. Yeah.
Note to self. Make sure it's on the list. I think it's on the list.
All right. So you said this book is very tightly linked to the movie for you. Did you watch the movie again recently?
No. Well, I probably watched the movie maybe 5 or 6 months ago.
Oh, that's pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once when it came out. And honestly, I'm such a fan of Crichton that I thought the movie was a disappointment. I was like, they just turned this into an action movie. Yeah. So, which, I'm sure it's a fine, I should watch it again, honestly. And I meant to watch it again just to have that, for comparison's sake. I just didn't have time. But I remember, what I like about this is not the elements that translate well to the screen. What I like about it is all the fake scholarship and all the weird details and all of the,
So this is very much like The Princess Bride in that the movie, technically the events of the movie are more or less in the book, but the movie is not about the book.
It really, that's a good analogy. Yeah. I was similarly disappointed the first time I saw The Princess Bride, which, you say that to people who've only seen the movie and they are shocked. Like, what do you mean you didn't like The Princess? It's like, the book was better. Yeah.
Well, there's just more to it.
Yeah. The movie has its own charm and I've grown to love it, but yeah.
Yeah. But there are significant differences, as there always are when you bring a story to the screen. But I enjoy the film, and unashamedly so. It's one of those comfort movies that Hannah and I both really enjoy. She likes the big Viking guy. We both love the Irish Viking guy.
Yeah.
Come on. Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Come on, how epic a moment twice in the movie is that?
So the movie is called The 13th Warrior, and this book is called The Eaters of the Dead, and both of those strike me as not great titles. And I'm surprised when, Monsters of the Mist is right there. They refer to these things as the monsters. Eaters of the Dead, what, as opposed to what? Eaters of the Living? That would be more terrifying, right?
Aside from oysters, when's the last time you ate something alive?
Yeah, I don't eat oysters, so never. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Eaters, it's a little pedantic. It sounds, I could see it as an academic title that was trying to get attention, but there should be a colon and then something else,
Yeah.
a treatise on the journey of, or whatnot.
Yeah. I found of all of the things about the, I don't remember what they call them now, the Neanderthal, but they had a name for them.
The Vindal.
Vendel, yes. Yeah, the Vendel. That the fact that they eat their victims, they didn't even consume them. They just sort of like gnawed at them. Yeah. That was like the least terrifying thing about them. So I don't know why it was a point of focus. The most terrifying thing is they're very tall and very strong and very existed in large numbers. And they would literally rip people limb from limb. They would tear their arms and legs off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, who cares what they do with the body? Yeah.
Well, they had to mystify them up somehow.
I guess. Yeah, they had that the little statue that they would leave of the pregnant torso. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Vikings. You're talking about fierce warriors whose greatest hope is to die in battle, and you've got to make them afraid for some reason, right? So, you have them come with the mist. Well, there are demons in the mist.
Yeah.
And
I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have them, you don't get to ever see one. They take their dead with them.
Yep.
The fact that they claim an arm, the Vikings claim an arm that first night. They hang the arm up in the long haul because, hey, look, we've got an arm.
Yeah. Have you ever read Beowulf?
I know for a fact that I was exposed to Beowulf in school. And it seems to me one of those things that I have returned to on more than one occasion with determination. And then I don't know, I feel like I might have finished it because they end up killing the mother, right? And Beowulf dies in that process. I don't know if it goes past that. But yeah, my memories of Beowulf are of it being tedious and painful and not worth the effort.
All right.
So I should probably revisit it with, more mature eyes.
There's a relatively new translation. When I say relatively, I mean in like last 15 or 20 years that might not have been around when you first encountered it. That is supposed to be good. The Seamus Haney translation got a lot of buzz when it first came out. I haven't read it.
Okay.
I've never read Beowulf. So yeah.
Yeah. Whatever I came across would have been, either high school or early college, and it was in a textbook that had been in publication unchanged for 40 years. So
yeah, so
it's safe to say it's not a new translation.
Yes.
It's like trying to go back and read Mort d'Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it just, the legend of King Arthur, what you think you know of it, it's like, hey, this is really epic, wonderful stuff. And then you sit down to the book and it's like, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah.
And he brake his sword, and he mounted his horse, and he rode, and he brake his spear upon him, and it was shattered. It's like, Jiminy Christmas, this is terrible.
No, if you're going to read Arthur, you got to read The Once and Future King. That's it. Have you read that? T.H. White?
I don't know that I have.
Oh, that's worth reading. That is a lot of fun. Yeah.
And Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, they actually do, in the book, a fine job of lampooning Mort d'Arthur.
Yes. Yeah. That's a fun book too. Inspired.
That might be on the list.
Yeah.
But this is the book we're talking about today.
This is the book. Yeah. We're going off topic a lot.
There's a saying that comes up a few times in the text, supposedly a Viking saying, right? I'm relatively sure I fabricated it. Praise not the day until evening has come, a woman until she is burnt, a sword until it is tried, a maiden until she is married, ice until it has been crossed, beer until it has been drunk.
I like that.
I like the concept of it, but a woman until she is burnt? The only thing I can think of is the slave who volunteers to die in the pyre with her master. But you really want to compare the standard of womanhood to a slave?
Because that's my take was, were they slaves? I guess they were.
The one, yeah.
Yeah.
Although Ibn does, I can't remember his actual name, so I'm going with what they did in the movie and just calling him Ibn, which is son of. But he does spend a little time pointing out that the Vikings treat their slaves much better than some other people other races treat their slaves.
Yeah. So these women that they burn when a Viking dies volunteer. Yeah. They're not just like, okay, all his slaves, you belong to him and you're going to get thrown on the pyre. And they're like, no, this is so awful. It's a point of honor and a gesture of love. And I assume there's some reward in the afterlife for them also. So and that's one of the reasons that when our narrator participates, that I think he feels free to, because it's a free choice by this woman to do this thing. So,
which doesn't stop them from doping the woman up before the ceremony gets good and going.
Yeah. So I think when they say a woman, they specifically mean one that is not married, an unmarried woman, so therefore equivalent to a slave. So you want to withhold judgment until she's willing to jump on the pyre for you.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I read that, but I don't know.
It seemed, well, anyway, I approve of the sentiment.
Yeah.
It just seems unwieldy to be a saying.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another nice little piece of wisdom here that I like. Viking wisdom. A man should be moderately wise, but not overwise, lest he know his fate in advance. The man whose mind is most free of care does not know his fate in advance. No? Yeah, I like that. And that very much comports with the Viking sensibility of, live for today, let tomorrow take care of itself. If you're going to obsess about whether we're going to win or lose this battle, you're going to be afraid and you're going to lose. Yeah. So go into it, enjoy it, have a good time. I love that he says that, these Vikings genuinely seem to enjoy battle so much so that their version of heaven is you wake up and you fight all day, and then the dead get brought back to life, and then they all drink beer together, and then they wake up again the next day and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
That's heaven, just fighting and killing each other forever. Yeah. So.
Huh. So, complete different parallel here. There's a song by Orange Goblin called "Save Me from Myself," and it's the lament of an eternal, but I can't figure out specifically who they're talking about because there's all kinds of different pantheon, different mythology scattered through it. But it just occurred to me, maybe this is somebody that's made it to Valhalla and they're not happy about it.
Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this forever. Yeah, I think it wouldn't appeal to me either. Either glorious battle or endless glorious battle in Valhalla with no consequences. The thought of hurting other people does not give me joy. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not our culture.
Yes. Yeah.
So speaking of, again, wisdom from these cultures, yesterday is better than today. They're speaking to a dwarf who's giving them counsel. Yesterday is better than today, and tomorrow is better than the day which follows that.
Wait, that seems bad. That seems like it's in the wrong order.
It seems like it, but it's saying sooner the better, right?
Oh, in terms of when to begin something. Yes, yes.
Yesterday is better than today, and tomorrow is better than the day which follows that.
The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were some fun technical details in here. He talks about so giant a people, and then he mentions that most of these Vikings would have been about 5'7".
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, how tall is our narrator? Then he thought of these people as giants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another weird highlight I had, and I don't know how to interpret this. To call it narrow is to call a camel kind. They're talking about a narrow gap in something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, does that mean it is narrow or it's not narrow? Are camels kind?
Camels, I know very little about camels from direct experience, but anecdotally, everything I've heard is they are vicious, ill-tempered beasts.
Okay.
They don't much care for their lot in life, and they certainly don't much care for people mucking about with them.
All right. So to call it narrow is to call a camel kind would be to say, this is not narrow, it is wide.
Well, or if a camel is kind, I mean, that's kind of asking the question of what would unkind be. Oh my God, it would be terrible, right? So maybe calling that narrow means it's really freaking narrow.
Oh, okay. Yes, this was just really hard to parse for me. The context is, I looked to this narrow ledge. It clearly is a narrow ledge, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
To call it narrow is to call a camel kind. Yeah.
Yeah, I think contextually that he's trying to emphasize it's not much of a ledge.
Yeah, he's being generous by calling the camel kind and generous by calling the ledge narrow, when in fact it is all but not there. Okay.
So that's funny because I'm looking at a quote from exactly the same place. So this is where they're entering the Thunder Caves. And for those of you that have read both the book, read the movie, seen the movie and read the book, this is a different plot point because in the book, when they go to attack the Queen of the Windell, they enter from the sea. They swim in through the Thunder Caves and then sneak up. Whereas in the movie, the Thunder Caves is their exit of desperation. But it's revealed that our narrator has a catastrophic fear of heights and of climbing. And
that's fun.
One of the Vikings is talking to him and says, each person bears a fear which is special to him. One man fears a close space and another fears drowning. Each laughs at the other and calls him stupid. Thus fear is only a preference to be counted the same as a preference for one woman or another, or mutton for pig, or cabbage for onion. We say fear is fear.
Yeah, I like that. Because it doesn't matter. You can be afraid of this, but you still got to do what you got to do. So, choose your fear, whatever, but then do what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot about the Viking philosophy as it's presented here I really like. But again, the whole afterlife of hacking and beer, half of that I could get behind. They probably don't let you beer if you don't hack.
Speaking of beer, this was, and I didn't again follow up on this, but apparently beer is okay for Muslims to drink. I thought all alcohol was forbidden. I don't know a lot about Islam, but
no, not beer, mead. Mead is okay for them to drink
because it is made from honey.
Honey,
yes,
and they do that in the movie too. But the fermentation of grain, the fermentation of grape, are forbidden. Yeah. But like in the movie, it's a loophole.
Yeah.
He never thought about fermented honey. Actually, no, fermented honey is explicitly okay.
Yeah.
But whatever. It was a comic moment in the film.
I need to watch this movie again.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of movies, there is a movie called Beowulf. Have you seen that?
I have not. I think I saw a trailer for it and thought it should be avoided at all costs.
The CGI looked pretty bad. It had Angelina Jolie in it as the mother of the Grendel. But it was made by Roger Avary, who was the co-screenwriter on Pulp Fiction. Okay. It's one of his big projects post-Pulp Fiction. Yeah, he was recently on Joe Rogan talking about it. And it's just like, well, that kind of puts that movie in a different light for me. And I might need to look at it. Yeah, so...
Well, if I've already paid for it, if it's on a subscription service I'm already paying for, maybe I'll give it a peek.
Yeah.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie got into these weird evil roles for a while. She was Maleficent.
She did some quirky stuff.
Yeah.
She did Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that was I kind of like that movie just for its quirkiness.
Yes, yeah.
It's been over 3 weeks since I finished this, and I took very few notes. I'm not sure what else I wanted to talk about.
There's a moment I like. I don't have a larger point for this, but I highlighted it. So our narrator can read and write, and our nominal hero, which I don't know how you say this, Beowulf.
In the film, if we want to take that as a reference, they say Bulvi.
Bulvi. Okay.
I look at what they have written in the book, and I say Bulvi, and I don't see the relationship between the two.
I could see it. If you you lead the I and pronounce the W as a V and the Y as a Y and the trailing F is softened or silent, Bulvi. Sure. Okay. Let's call him Beowulf because that's who he is. So Beowulf tests our narrator. He says, hey, write something for me. And then later, Beowulf, writes the same thing in the dirt and says, read this to me. And he had memorized a passage of writing in an alphabet he did not know so well that he could reproduce it exactly so that this guy could read it back to him.
Yep.
And he does this as a test to see, if the guy was just making this up, my scribbling random stuff. And that is an astonishing feat of memory. Yeah. He is obviously a very, very intelligent guy, and to be able to do that, yeah. And this mostly passes without comment, other than this little mention.
Well, that and and this is something that they did keep in the book, both the testing. I mean, in the movie, both the testing of our narrator, see if he actually could. They call it draw sounds, right? If he could.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
But also at the end, when Beowulf, he knows he's going to die, and it's not that big a deal because he's a Viking. But he's like, it would be really cool if a story like this lived on because somebody could write it down.
Yeah. Yes, and I found myself cheering towards the end of the book for this guy to live so the story would survive. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could be tortured by it in high school and early college literature classes.
Yeah.
Centuries later.
So now, okay, this book includes, I mean, it's a novel, but then there is a fake bibliography and then an appendix and then a real bibliography. Mm-hmm. Did you read the appendix also?
Whatever was in between the covers, I read.
All right, yeah. So that's fun. That's where the speculation that the Grendel are actually Neanderthals comes from, is from the appendix. It's not in the main text, I believe.
It is not in the name text, but the description aligns with what they thought Neanderthals looked like when we were in grade school.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and we had that poster on the wall.
Yes.
Now, modern thinking has changed quite a bit about what that appearance was. Mm-hmm. And now that's odd because he addresses that in the appendix, but when the appendix was written, what was this written in the 80s?
1976.
1976. So I feel like in the appendix, he talks about the fact that the description for the Neanderthals seems archaic, but I don't think it was archaic when he wrote this.
Well, this says afterward, copyright 1993. So maybe that didn't come out until 20 years later.
You think the appendix didn't come out with the book?
Yeah,
that he
I don't
went
know.
Back and added the
but
appendix?
I don't know when they revised the discussion of or the appearance of Neanderthals either. So I don't know if it happened between the 70s and the 90s or it happened post 1993. So, but he says according to in the afterward that if someone was wearing a suit, a Neanderthal was wearing a suit and walking down Wall Street, you wouldn't recognize him. You just think, oh, it's kind of a big dude. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, otherwise pass without comment.
He has tipped his hand. He actually has a time machine. He's been to the future to research Neanderthals.
Yeah.
We knew it, Michael Crichton. We knew all along you had a time machine.
Michael Crichton had a time machine. He would be in the past, I think. No, that's according to, have you read Timeline?
It sounds familiar.
They made it into a terrible, terrible movie, but the book itself is kind of fun. And it's the guy invents a time machine, and he's initially using it to do archaeology, and then it turns out his secret plan is to build a historically accurate theme park. It's like Jurassic Park with time travel. Yeah. So, yeah.
I have put a little bit of thought into what I would do if I could transport myself into the past.
Yeah.
Cubic zirconium.
Cubic zirconium?
I am going to buy $10,000 worth of CZ off of Amazon, and then I'm going to travel back in time to a civilized era, but before CZ is a known thing.
Yeah.
And I am going to sell them at the price of what the market will bear for diamonds. That is how I will become rich in the days before penicillin. I'm not sure it's a good plan, but it's the only one I've come up with.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're limiting yourself to how much gold you can carry back, right?
Yeah, I mean, doing something like buying precious metals here and going back is just idiocy because you're losing so much value.
Yeah.
But buying something now that's effectively worthless that could be treated as precious back then. And then I guess the whole thing is you set it up in a trust and you make sure that it's self-perpetuating.
You got to do something. Information is the most portable value you can carry in either direction.
Yeah.
And for instance, penicillin should be worth more than all the CZ that you can carry. Yeah, if you administer it to the right people at the right time.
You're forcing me to rethink my harebrained scheme here. All right, anything else about Eaters of the Dead?
I don't have anything else on Eaters of the Dead. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading it though.
Yeah. Again, I didn't take very many notes, but yes, this is a good book. I enjoy reading it. I enjoy revisiting it. I enjoy watching The 13th Warrior. Yeah, pretty much everything about this book rocks.
Definitely check out the movie again. And in the meantime, take a look at The Great Train Robbery because I think you would like it a lot.
We'll stick that on the list as well.
Yeah.
All right, so what's up next?
Next up, we have one of my favorite books. Well, we'll talk about that. Called The Magicians by Lev Grossman, part of a trilogy.
All right, not something I'm familiar with, so looking forward to that.
All right, see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.